What's up, world? This is
Consciousness Speaks with Onika Whyte.
and Andrew Gobind.
What's up, everyone? This is Consciousness Speaks. I'm alongside my homegirl Onika. I'm Andrew. I want to thank everyone for joining us again. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. It's the end of the year. We're starting a new decade, 2020, and it's a time for us to, do a little self-assessment and see where we are and what we want to change and how we want to heal. Onika, it's always a blessing to have you here alongside me. We have producer, videographer in the background, Rick. We want to say what's up. Without him, none of this would be possible. Here we are today, and it's just a blessing to have this wonderful energy around us.
Absolutely, Andrew. And honestly, I am so excited to get into that conversation
Yes.
about what's holding you back. It's a great topic.
I think it's a great topic going into a new decade,
Right.
starting 2020, and saying that we're going to start with a fresh slate. And now let's look at this topic that all of us can connect to, of things that hold us back.
Yes, because there's so many things that are holding us back. Fear of starting a new project,
Yeah.
starting the new decade fresh, new perspective, new ideas, new thoughts of things that we want to accomplish. And within that, what's holding us back? What's preventing us from achieving the things that we say that we want and desire?
And what is holding us back from reconnecting back to our authentic self? We talked about it in our last podcast. We're going to delve in a little deeper because as we start this new decade 2020, this is what we need to do for ourselves, is that we need to find ways to connect back to our authentic self, to find our passions, because again, process of elimination, we need to know what's holding us back, Onika.
Absolutely. And I'm happy you mentioned the point of, connecting back to our authentic self, because we can try to achieve all of these things outside of ourselves.
Absolutely.
But until we start reconnecting back to who we truly are, that's big. That's
huge.
a big step, really, because that's what we need to be doing. It's about self-actualization, and really and truly connecting to that part of yourself is powerful.
Absolutely.
And that's the key.
It is.
You know?
And if we look at anything that changes us in our life, for example, here we are right now, starting this podcast, putting ourselves out there, sharing our life stories and experiences, being vulnerable and open. And it's not easy because here we are trying to get out of our comfort zone, to let everybody know that, we have a voice when it comes to this consciousness, and consciousness meaning, there's more to life than this human experience, and we're all connected, and we find ways how we are connected, Onika.
Absolutely.
And it is, as we started this podcast, we can talk about, the things that we've felt that that has held us back, and what I've felt in the moment sometimes of feeling, here I am, and we have these great conversations, and then the camera comes on and the lights come on, and then we sometimes freeze, or we don't feel, we don't know what we want to say. And I think it's important that we pay attention to those moments, we acknowledge it, and we move past it.
Yeah. Even for me, Andrew, leading up to the podcast, sometimes I have this emotion just starts to rise up, and I can identify it right away. Thoughts of, oh, I don't think I can do this. Oh, I'm so stressed. What am I going to say today? I hope I don't forget, and so on. But the first thing I need to do, or I started doing, is acknowledge when those thoughts start coming up.
Absolutely.
That mental chatter, that voice that just keeps saying things. And a lot of times, guys, it doesn't say something good.
Yeah.
If we start to pay attention, for most part, it says a lot of negative things. And so by process of elimination,
Yes.
we can start first identify it and start finding ways now to really eliminate those thought patterns that are formulated in our minds. And one way that we could do it, Andrew, is by doing a lot of self-talk, meaning that we can say, I am strong. I can do this. I'm confident. And by doing saying things, affirmations, and of course, Andrew, it won't happen overnight.
No.
It's a step-by-step process where over time, by saying these things, we can start believing in it. And once we're believing in it, we can start achieving the things that we truly want and desire to do.
You know, one of the things that if I talk about what holds me back, it's that fear. It's that fear inside me that, Onika, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not deserving, that something's wrong, and the critic comes out. And, there's a part of me that wants to silence the critic. And it's interesting because as soon as I silence the critic, what happens with this guy? He gets louder. And what I need to learn, and we talked about, is to allow the critic to say the things. But again, that's the mind chatter part, because that inner critic within us, that's a part of us coming from a place of fear. And if I'm going to come from a place of fear, I also have to realize and take the time and surrender and come from a place of love.
Yeah, that's a great point, Andrew. So in other words, you're saying that coming from a place of love, we need to understand how to be more loving to our minds.
Yes.
By simply speak nice words to our mind or retrain it in the way that we want it to be.
Absolutely.
Knowing that we have the control. We don't have control over a lot of things like other people, circumstances, and so on, but we do have control over our minds, right? And instead of having our minds bring us in so many directions, we can start taking back the control and navigate it in the way that we want it to go.
And taking back control, it's quite interesting because taking back control means surrendering. And you surrender to love, right? You surrender to this place of absolute knowing that I am worthy.
Yes.
So, for example, when we started this podcast, we
are worthy. Ooh.
Yes, we are worthy. Take time to pause and let that sink in. Because when we started this podcast, there was a million things that came into my mind. That, am I ready for this? Is there any type of credibility I have? Any of these different types of things would creep into your mind. But I also know that this loving, self-authentic place that I have, my stories to help me heal, to help others, I also knew was very important. And I think that's the part, because we need to truly acknowledge where we are. Give voice to the fear. And when I say give voice to the fear, what I mean by that is, don't put the fear under the rug like it doesn't exist. Because when we do that, it can creep into us. It can creep into our minds. That negative self-talk becomes real. When I give a voice to it, when I start talking about it, but I talk about it in a way that doesn't serve me, and I talk about it in a positive way, saying, Onika, I had these thoughts about this podcast. Rick, our producer and videographer, I don't know if I'm ready to do this. But then we bring it out into our awareness and we realize that we support each other on this journey, and we say we are ready.
Yes. That's exactly why I call you my brother, because Andrew has been an amazing friend where we're able to have these conversations about things that I'm fearful of and other things that I may be going through. And of course, one of them is just, as a woman, me just simply accepting myself for who I am and presenting myself to you and the rest of the world, knowing that I am okay the way I am, and not thinking that, it's gonna, are they gonna like me? What are they gonna think of me? Even the way I speak was an issue for me, and I had struggled with that for a while, where I'm thinking, oh my goodness, are they gonna judge my voice? Are they gonna judge who I am? But I had to get to a place now where I had to accept myself. I had to start understanding that this is how I was created, and just loving myself the way I am, and knowing that I deserve to do what I want to do, and simply not holding back, because those things that we experience in our minds can hold us back from doing the things that we truly want to do.
Absolutely. And I love that we're talking about what holds us back at the end of 2019 here, because one of the big things is when we don't talk about it, we can stay in that space of shame, right? We're ashamed of what's holding us back. And then we don't want to talk about it. So we stay isolated, number one. Number two, that negative mental chatter becomes louder, and we stay there. When I now am able to talk about it positively, when I'm now able to share my emotions and my vulnerability of what's holding me back, it allows me to release it.
Absolutely. And not only release it, it also helps you now to start setting goals.
Yes.
of things that you want to accomplish, meaning that we have 24 hours in a day. And within that 24 hours, we can start having an agenda. By having an agenda, so we write the things down that we truly want to accomplish within the day and check it off as we go along.
Absolutely.
And by checking it off as we go along, we'll see now that we're able to start accomplishing the things that we truly want for our lives. And that's one of the things I do to make sure my day is productive. And you're also going to feel a sense of worthiness whenever you're doing that, right?
Yes. And I love how you bring up these topics and how we can get out of this space that's holding us back, because what we do now for one another is we hold a sacred space. And that sacred space is, I can share these things that make me feel insecure. I can share these things that make me feel vulnerable, because that's me being real and authentic and getting back to who I truly am. You know, it's not putting on this facade and thinking and letting everybody know everything is okay.
But at the same time, Andrew, we can share those stories, but we also need to come from a place where we're not playing the victim role of, why me, poor me, but we can start saying, this is what's happening. I need your assistance. I need your help. I need you to hold me accountable so I can start moving towards the things I want to accomplish.
I love how you said that, because once I bring into my awareness what's holding me back, and now I share what's holding me back, I also bring the accountability back to myself, and now I can create moving out of this space, because that's what it comes back down to, Onika. It's sharing in this vulnerable space, so we hold each other accountable.
Yes. Absolutely. And of course, once we're holding each other accountable and we start moving towards our goals, we'll be feeling better. We'll feel more accomplished, and we'll be happier with our lives, instead of having the mental chatter that goes on in our mind. But understanding it's just thoughts. And we can literally work our way out of it by not stop listening to those thoughts sometimes, especially the thoughts that are not serving us. Because after all, we are not our thoughts, guys. So honestly, it's 2020. Let's start doing the things that we want to do, accomplishing our goals, and moving towards that higher and more loving and more authentic version of ourselves. Andrew, this has been a blessing.
This is unbelievable. And I want to challenge everybody out there that when we bring up conscious conversations, we talk about what we're fearful of and what's holding us back, and then we do it in a positive light. I want to say again, Onika, it's a blessing to be here with you. Happy holidays to everybody out there. Love and blessings. One love.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.